All right, this is the Rocker Dog Podcast, the show that talks to people in and around the music world about their dogs and the positive impact these creatures have on their lives. I'm your host, Tim Dill, alongside my fur guy, Charlie, and today we are super excited to bring you our talk with producer, engineer, and songwriter Suzy Shinn, who's twisted the knobs for the likes of Weezer, Panic at the Disco, and Fall Out Boy, to name just a few. And this is her small but indestructible rocker dog.
This is Jack. Jack, my child, very spoiled and very scared of everything, but
Let's get the basics. Age, breed.
I want to say somewhere around 9. I did the dog DNA test. He's half Chihuahua and then a quarter Pitbull. And the other is a mix of Shitzu and Poodle and dog.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how long have you had him of his 9 years?
I think about 8. They said I got him from the South LA shelter and he was about a year old then.
Okay. Well, let's go back 8 years. That's very interesting. What was going on in your life 8 years ago, and what prompted bringing Jack into it?
Oh, what a beautiful question. What was going on in my life? I was producing, I was writing, I was engineering. I was engineering a lot for Jake Sinclair, who's another producer. I was working with Panic at the Disco still, and Weezer. And I had a dog, Tito, who was like, well, I grew up with all animals. Like I'm
Okay.
talking Chihuahua, an army of Chihuahuas to ferrets to rats to guinea pig to cats. And I brought Tito as one of the Chihuahuas, a big Chihuahua, with me to LA. And I had him for a long time. And he suddenly got ill and passed. I was so heartbroken. Like that was like the first like heartbreak I experienced probably like in my adult life.
Right.
And I was like, I'll never love another thing again. I can never get another animal. I can't ever go through this again. And I was like, not wealthy then. I didn't have pet insurance. And like when he passed, I thought they were like, if you want to do a CAT scan, we can go this. We think he has some kind of brain tumor or something,
Right.
is what
Right.
happened. And I was like, it would have taken every dollar, and I would have been like on the street at that moment in my life. And so I made a hard decision, and so I went like a full year plus, and I was like, okay, I think I can get. I want to find my next heart dog. And I get so emotional about animals. It's so funny.
That's that's all right. It's happened often in this show. So
um but I went and I to all the shelters in LA and I met with every dog and I was like, I have to find, it has to be this kind of dog. I want to take him everywhere with me. And I had ended up fostering this one little tiny Chihuahua that was a menace named Spicy Taco. And I was like, I can't do this. And I took him to 3 trainers and the trainers were like, this is kind of how this dog is gonna like humping, crying, peeing everywhere, and my mom took him. My mom was like, I want Spicy Taco. And I was like, okay, you would take it.
and say with a
And
name like Spicy Taco, the writing is on the wall.
just like a little tiny Chihuahua. But I then went to South LA shelter again, and there was this Chihuahua that was on 30-day prison hold. Their owner was in jail, and then the owner never came back. And I was like, that's the dog that I'm gonna get. This little sweet baby, and gone that morning. And I had met with Jack. He was in a kennel with like 3 other dogs, and he was in the back shivering because I was like, what dog needs the most help?
All right.
Who's getting overlooked? Who's not the very cute little baby, but like, and we took him out and they let me play with him and he escaped. And he was running all through South LA shelter. Everyone's chasing up. But I hold him and I was like, can I foster? Because South LA shelter is like, we want you to adopt this dog. We
Yeah.
don't want
Yeah.
to do no foster. But the guy thought about it and he was standing looking at the cage with like the 3 dogs and Jack shivering. And Jack had been there for like 3 weeks or something. And he was like, okay, yeah, you can foster him. And I like took him home and it was game over. Like one
Yeah.
day, like, this is
He
my
probably
dog.
he probably knew the chances of Jack coming back were very slim.
Yeah, for sure. And so that's how it all started. When I had first got Jack, like 6 months in, I took him home to Kansas for Christmas. And I told my stepdad, I was like, Mom and I are going shopping. Don't let Jack outside. He is terrified and he will leave. So just, we're gone for 2 hours. 30 minutes into it, I let Jack outside to pee and ran away. Gone for like 36 hours. And in that time, I
Oh my
think
God.
Fall Out Boy, Panic at the Disco, Weezer, Crush, Evan Taubenfeld, like everyone, there was like Kate McCucci, Jake Sinclair, like we had like a $30,000 award, whatever, for this dog. And I didn't sleep and I was just like, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. If this dog is gone, like I'm never going to recover. And I found him eventually and everyone was like calling, being like, who found him? Because like there were Panic at the Disco fans driving all over Wichita, Kansas, trying to
Oh my
help me
God.
find
That's
the dog.
awesome.
Yeah. The trick was I put clothes outside of our window and I drove around for miles and I then put a pile of because he went missing not even at the house I was staying at. And I put the pile of clothes in front of the door, like stinky
For the
meat clothes.
scent. Yeah.
It was insane.
That's crazy.
On like Christmas morning at like,
No way.
yeah.
Oh my God.
Not an inch of sleep. It was the Christmas miracle. And he was hit by a car. His like whole little head, like I
In
don't
that
know.
time or in a different
In the
instance?
time, he's been
Oh my
hit by
God.
another car too. He's been hit by two cars, totally unscathed.
Holy
He had a
cow.
little like scab on the first one, like a big scab at the time. I was like freaking out and I drove straight to the emergency room. But yeah.
Well, I'm very interested in always finding the intersection of the art and the music, and you as a producer and a songwriter. There were two songs that I wanted to pick your brain about. One is very obvious, and one maybe not so obvious. Do you
Okay.
want to start? Which one do you want to start on?
Um, we can start with the obvious.
Okay. And do you want to tell me the name of the song?
I want a dog.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Now, I don't know where to begin with that because I kind of want to guess how it came to be. I know you have a history with Weezer. I'm hoping the answer is that Rivers spent enough time with Jack that Jack inspired the song.
Um, I would like to believe that is true. I mean, when I saw that rough demo like come into my inbox, I was like smiling ear to ear because Rivers, he's a very unique human and I had never seen him be like overly affectionate with a dog or an animal or get excited, but during the making of Van Weezer, I had Jack and Jack was just at the studio every day. And he's a very unique studio dog in that at times will be very excited and will greet you if he's someone that he likes.
Mhm.
If you're someone that he likes. And then he just straight up chills until you ask him some key words that he appreciates, such as the W word or the word breakfast, stuff like that. And he's got such a unique personality. I think like Rivers really was like, huh, I've never seen a dog like this. And we'd always joke whenever I'd go out of town, I'd be like, do you want to watch Jack? And he'd be like, yeah, but can you bring him over for like a trial? Like, is he good with kids? Is he? So X amount of years later, I that came in and I was like, oh, that was so cute. Rivers, he ended up getting cats. He got two
Okay.
cats instead, but I was like, that's a huge step for animals in the Cuomo household.
Well, it's funny. I've heard the song a number of times, but when you get ready for an interview, you're like, I got to turn it on again. I got to listen to it. I got to look at the lyrics. And do you know anything about the context of lyrics? Like, is that ever a discussion, or is that anything you've
Think we
ever?
ever like picked apart the lyrics so much like that, but I mean, and I haven't looked at the lyrics in a while, but
And I'll give you just an example, just to
yeah.
give you context. And you don't need to answer if you don't have you don't need to answer if you don't have the answer. We're keeping score. We're all rational agents. We make our deals to try to get more famous. I made my bed. Now I'm going to lie in it. That's what I get. I wish I had a dog.
So good.
So, but and that's surrounded by, I want to curl up beside me. I want it to keep me company. So there's a lot of stuff about, it's very straightforward, but within that, there's a context where it's, best to ask Rivers, but I didn't know if you were privy to any of it or ever discussed it.
We haven't, but what I hear in that is, man, I wish I would have got a dog earlier,
Okay.
that kind of thing. Because it is a very specific life, the life of being on the road, a rock star or in a band or, whatnot. It's very, very difficult to have an animal, especially early on in your career when you have roommates and you're on tour 9 months out of the
Yeah.
year or whatever. But then the other side of it I hear is the life of the dog doesn't judge and doesn't have to do all these deals and all this
Yeah.
stuff that humans make the decision to. They just love and exist,
Yeah. Okay. So the second song I wanted to ask you about, you were a co-writer on, and that was Don't You Want to Sleep with Someone Normal by Love Fame Tragedy,
Yeah.
which isn't obvious, but you know what part I'm going to refer to?
No, I know there's a line about a dog that we wrote, and I'm trying to think of what that line is.
Yeah, there's I guess in the breakdown of the bridge, there's a kind of a message from his wife, and she's saying, "Please," and I thought it was, "Please pick up dog poop, pick up dog poop," and somebody on a message board said, "Pick up dog food." Either way, it's the same message. It's funnier if it's pick up dog poop.
Yeah, it is.
But I figured, as a co-writer, you're not maybe privy to that being fully executed in a studio and put together piece by piece. So was that a surprise to you to see that outgoing message from his wife being included into the song?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I loved it though. I think that was Jackknife Lee that produced that song. I'm like 99% positive. And it's just it took that song that I loved and just made it like that much more real.
Yeah. Well, on your bio on your website, you mentioned that Jack never misses a session at your recording studio. And this has become kind of a recurring theme of this show, and I ask it ad nauseum. But what does having Jack in the studio mean to you? Or what's it do for you?
It brings me great joy. It makes me feel at ease. It makes me feel like I have my family there with me, that I'm not so alone in this world. It brings a smile onto 95% of the people's faces who comes in.
Nice.
Uh, and it's got a different vibe than a room without a dog. It's more casual. It's more relaxed. It's more like, hey, let's let our guard down. There's a dog chilling underneath the desk on a dog bed. And it's just some fun. I think like life should have humor and like as many aspects of it as it can. And like, when the dog itches itself in a funny way or barks at someone or I don't know, like farts and it smells and everyone's like, oh, like that's just like small things that make like the big day not seem so big and serious.
Right.
And yeah, even if there's like a studio, because I work at other studios a lot too, but like if someone's like, hey, this session that you're doing for a week, like you can't bring a dog, I'll be like, I'm gonna use another studio then, unfortunately. Or like I'll be like, okay, I agreed to this, but like note to self, I have a record in my head. I will not name them, but like that's not my go-to studios. My go-to studios, they get stoked when a little dog runs down that hall of the village or wherever.
Is that what was on your Instagram recently? It's kind of like that dark hallway and Jack's running up and down.
That was at United. Every single studio we've ever been to, that like a big commercial one, I have a video of Jack just going nuts down the hallway. But yeah, that was United on the way to Studio B. I have one at Henson recently and the Village. Those are the
Okay.
top three good hallways for dog running.
That's awesome. And then one last thing I wanted to ask you about, and this goes just to an Instagram post. And I believe it was a post you were tagged on. It was from Keith Carbon of Modest Mouse,
Yeah.
and it looked like it was the vocal booth that was set up. But there's a framed illustration of a dog Like I think it's on a music
The
stand, so it's
seal
right,
dog, the
perfect.
dog that looks like a seal, kind of. Yes, I
Yeah,
love that.
I thought it might have been. It looked a little bit like Jack.
It did. It did. It was not Jack. Um, but that was we would change out the photo every day when we were doing vocals and recording that week with like the live band, and that the dog was a good one. He stayed in there. And Isaac would look at him because I built him like a literal like cave to try to keep it isolated from the band as vocals.
Right.
He brought down the dog
And that's just setting the mood or the tone for the day or for the song.
for the day. For the day.
I love it. Okay. Well, I conclude every episode with what I call the Zoomies, and that's five fast, frivolous questions. The
Okay.
first is, do you allow Jack to lick your face?
A little bit if he wants to, sure. But he doesn't,
Okay.
he's not a big licker.
He's not a licker. Okay, we get that a lot. Question two was, what would Jack's theme song be? When he comes walking in a room, what should be playing?
The song that I wrote for him called Jack, Do You Wanna Go on a Walk?
Now, is that available anywhere for public
No, no,
consumption?
no, no. It's available in my living room.
Okay. Do you want to loan it to us for maybe some theme music to open the
Yeah, yeah.
show?
I'll make you a theme song.
Okay. All right. Question three. I know you're an artist in your own right, so hypothetically, the next time you go on tour and you take Jack, what does Jack want on his tour rider?
Oh, bacon, salmon, a dog bed. He wants it to be soundproof. He wants the bus to be very quiet, and probably a big dog. He likes having a big dog around.
That's nice. I like that. I like that addition. Now, is he sensitive to the noises of the studio?
Yeah, he doesn't like loud guitars or high pitch or feedback guitar, which is sad for me, and he doesn't like drums. So
I can
drums,
see that.
we got to go in the other room, or he's got
Okay.
to go.
Because another really great post of yours is Rivers Cuomo shredding, for lack of a better description, a guitar solo, and Jack's right next to him, unfazed, like totally. And I
Yeah,
can't tell if does he wear, do you put on the
little dog
headphones?
earmuffs.
Yeah.
No, I think in that case the amp was in the other room. So it's more like if we're cranking it or the
Yeah.
amp is like right there, or someone's plugging in the amp and it makes that he's like
Yeah.
he freaked out.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he enjoyed his guitar playing.
Don't we all?
Yeah.
Question four is, do you have a dog voice? Do you speak to Jack in that special tone?
Yeah, sometimes he gets spoken to in this tone of voice a lot, but then he also gets spoken to in, yes, his
In the
baby dog
cutesy?
voice. Yes.
Okay. The B side of that question I sometimes ask is, do you ever channel a voice? Do you know what he would sound like in human form?
I think about it and I don't want to give him a voice because I don't want to be like inaccurate to what he would sound like because I feel like every time people will be like, "Oh, well, my name's Nick," or some kind of like
Right.
like goofy voice, and I feel like my dog is very intelligent and would probably just sound like you or me.
Okay. You don't want to
Oh,
misrepresent him.
yeah.
Okay. Question five, I always ask, is there a dog organization or a service you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, several. I foster a lot of animals, and I'm like big into helping animals. South LA shelter. Our Los Angeles shelters need volunteers, need donations, towels, blankets, food, treats. They're totally overrun and oh, like not enough staff. And even if you volunteer to hang out with a dog, or if you just drop off all your extra toys that you have or whatnot, it goes a long way. And then this other one is called One Dane at a Time. Great Dane rescue ran by this incredible woman saving Great Danes, that is a feat. That is a big, big
Those are
thing.
big dogs.
And she is just extremely passionate. Yeah, I love. And then even in the not dog of all animals, South Bay Rodent Rescue, I foster rats. You name the animal, and I'm
Okay.
I'm all in. I'm like, how can I help?
Okay. It's funny, I did have pet rat question mark as part of my notes.
Yeah, I had a rat growing up, and I don't know what inspired me. I think it would just be funny. Another fun thing to have in the house. And I've fostered two so far, and I love them all. But like the one I loved this one, Star, and my boyfriend loved Star. And Star was coming to all of the sessions, chilling in the back of my hoodie hood.
That's crazy. I mean, I'm an animal lover. That should be something I should overcome. I guess I lived in New York City for 20 years, so I guess I can't overcome the rat
Rat.
perception
They're
of
really smart. Have you seen them drive the little cars that they have now for rats? My manager also hates rats. He cannot come in the house when I have the rat. He cannot see an Instagram post of the rat. Like it makes him like freak out.
Yeah, I can see that. But I'll give you that. They are smart because New York can't eradicate them. They outsmart everything
Yeah.
every time they try.
Yeah.
Well, Suzy, I was excited to talk to you, and you delivered. Thank you so much for coming on the show and spreading the good word of dogs.
Thank you so much for having me, Tim. I had a awesome time, and I think this podcast is essential. I think, us talking about more than just the signal flow or what mic did you use or what, like, hey, this is part of it too. And it's
Yeah.
a big part. The little things in life make up the big picture because it hits a real place. It hits like the humanity in people and the humanity in everything that we do is that we love dogs. Not
Yeah.
all, but like the people who love dogs, like we love dogs.
Yeah.
And it's important
It-
and it's
it-
real. And I think real things do well online. And it's
yeah, I hope so. Well, thank you again, and have a terrific career. It's going so well, and it's always exciting to see what you'll do next.
thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure.
Carl, you're a damn good dog.